Alright, so I'm a bit late to this game. It really blew up about a month ago. It's not normally the type of game I play, but a friend of mine really wanted to play it with me, and so I got it, and I've been playing it. You know, it got released in early access, I think 2 months ago, roughly 2 months ago. But you know, I was looking at review scores and I was seeing 10 out of 10s, especially in Steam, which I'll come back to in a second. The important question is the game really a 10 out of 10? Like, really? Really? That sounds not right. So, like, is it? Here's the thing. It's a good game, but I wouldn't give the game a 10 out of 10, like, not even close. Of course, part of this whole, like, 10 out of 10 deal is just the weird way Steam gives scores, which is just, did you recommend it or not? You know, pretty much everybody's recommending it, so it's a 10 out of 10. But I don't think anybody actually sees it as a 10 out of 10 on, like, an individual level. Like, personally, I'm rating the game, for now, and it is an early access, at a 7.8 out of 10 on my new, like, rating scale, which, you know, for context, a 7 is good, so anything like a 7 or up, you know, good. Generally would recommend getting the game. You know, and if you've seen my Starfield review, in the full video, I gave it a 7.5, but on this new scale, it is now a 6.2 out of 10. And if that confuses you at all, I definitely recommend checking out the video. It explains my new, like, rating system a lot better. But so a 7.8 out of 10 is a good game. You know, if this looks interesting to you, I would generally recommend getting it. But so with that out of the way, let's get into the review. Alright, so I wanted to start with performance because it's going to be the shortest, because the game runs smoothly. That's really all I have to say. I've had zero problems with the performance, which is rare for games nowadays. Of course, part of the reason why it runs so smoothly is because, I mean, there's not a lot going on with the game, which leads us into gameplay. Alright, so the gameplay is pretty good, you know, it's fun for a while. The goal is to loot abandoned bases on moons, to sell the loot and meet a quota. You have 3 days to meet the quota. If you don't meet the quota, you lose, and you have to start over. And then what really makes this all a challenge is that these moons are not safe. You know, there's various monsters, traps, and even like weather effects that can kill you, making you drop your loot. If you die, you'll respawn the next day, but if the whole team dies, all the loot stored on your ship is lost as well, which can make meeting the quota impossible, you know, if it's like the last day or something. You can buy items to help you out, but they're pretty limited. You know, you have stuff like flashlights and walkie-talkies, which I'll get into in a second. You can fight back against some of the creatures as well, but your choice of weaponry is like generally really limited to things like shovels and stop signs. It's on the ceiling! I got it. I got it. I hear more. And most enemies are either invincible or just there's no way you're gonna win a fight against them, so it's not worth fighting them anyways. You know, but the weapons can be useful at keeping away some lower level enemies. And something that's a bit interesting is that since everybody dying makes you lose all your loot that you have stored, it's a good strategy to leave one person on the ship, but they're not just left there doing nothing. They can use a terminal to keep an eye on everybody, using like a radar to let them know like where loot is or where danger is. And they can even open certain doors from the terminal that can't be opened inside the base. But from this terminal, you can't get too comfortable because even the person on the ship isn't completely safe. There are a few creatures that can get you on the ship as well. But so yeah, it's a pretty fun gameplay loop, but once you get the hang of things, it doesn't ever really go further than that. There's a handful of moons and a handful of creatures, and once you've seen them all, there really isn't anything else to do. You know, there's no real progression to it. It's definitely a good base game, but I'd really like to see it have some sort of progression by the time it has a full release. So this is a horror game, and something that horror games really focus on is the feel of the game. The graphics are intentionally rendered at a low resolution, which helps for performance. And then additionally, there's a few filter effects on top that together with the low resolution just decreases the overall visibility in the game, especially at a distance, which can actually be a good thing for making things seem creepy. It also uses pitch black areas that need to be lit up to see through. You know, you can't just like turn up settings on your monitor and see in the pitch black areas. You know, the audio can be very ominous. You know, it'll play some like nice music every now and then, but then sometimes it just shuts off to complete silence, which complete silence can be very creepy. And then often you'll have like creepy sound effects off in the distance, like walking or distant laughter or something. And what's really concerning about those sound effects is that generally those sounds mean that there's something there. There is something in the area with you making that sound. Sometimes the sounds are just sound effects, but you not being able to know just kind of makes it even more creepy. And that leads to like another design choice that I think is really important for the game is that it uses proximity chat. The door is locked. So proximity chat is that the in-game chat only works like if you're close by somebody, and like the further away you get, the less you can hear them until, you know, if they get a certain distance away, you can't hear them at all. And so this proximity chat is a big reason why like the walkie-talkies can be an important item. And of course you could cheat and use like a phone or Discord call to get around this, but where's the fun in that? Like one of the funnest things in the game is when you're talking to someone and it just suddenly goes quiet, and it's like now you have to figure out like, did they die? And if they died, what killed them? Did they fall? Did they get killed by something? Or did they just find an exit? And then it's like, well, so then should you go back to the ship or risk getting another item? And that whole like moment of like trying to figure things out it's really fun. It's like some of the funnest moments of the game.
Aaron? Hello? Oh?
One last thing about the audio, it also has some very interesting reverb effects in the bass that kind of add to like the creepiness of the bass.
We can buy flashlights. We might.
And it's interesting like hearing like the different voices in the proximity chat getting reverb on it. It's a small detail, but I like it quite a bit. The lore behind the game isn't too fleshed out, but that also leaves like a lot of mysteriousness to it. So generally in these reviews I'd have like a writing section, but there's not really like a story to this game. So I'm just gonna put like what lore there is under feel. You know, the lore behind the game isn't too fleshed out, but that also leaves a lot of mysteriousness to it. For example, like the company you're working for, which is simply called The Company, is either run by or employs some sort of like tentacle monster to buy the loot for you. There are also like the logs from a previous crew that you can collect, and they mention like hearing screams coming from their walkie-talkie when nearby the wall of the company, which, you know, is kind of creepy and interesting, but I tested it and it's not actually a thing that's in the game, at least not as of yet. The crew also didn't remember how exactly they got there, and the logs are dated in 1968, which is kind of weird. Like, is it like an alternate history thing or time traveling? I don't know, but you know, it's a small detail, but I think it adds a little bit more like interestingness to it. But unfortunately that's about as far as the lore goes, you know, and it works for the time being. But I do think the game needs to hide like a bit more like secret lore tidbits throughout, sort of like a underlying side quest to solve like the mystery of why you're working for the company, and perhaps something that even unlocks new content as you figure out the mystery behind it. The current lore logs you can find just aren't that interesting at the moment. But so yeah, I think the feel's pretty good for the game. You know, I'm not normally one for horror games. There are a few exceptions, but I generally find them very uninteresting. Same with horror films. If you don't get scared easily, the horror genre can just be very uninteresting. That said, this game would actually have me nervous at times, and even jump scared me a few times, which, you know, most horror games can't do. Like just flashing a monster on the screen or something does not concern me, because it's not the visuals alone that kind of like jump scare you. It's the feeling that there's actually consequences if the monster catches you. You know, if you die, you could lose the match that you and all your friends have been working on for the past hour. You don't just get to reload a save from 5 minutes ago. And so even though, you know, it's kind of small consequence, the fact that there's like really a consequence at all is something that a lot of horror games just don't have, and I think should be an important element for the horror genre of video games, because I mean otherwise it's like why would you care? I have save files, like I don't care. So yeah, the game is a good game. I like it, and I would absolutely recommend it to anyone who thinks it sounds interesting. However, you should know that it is still in early access and is very limited on content, but for its current price, it's just $10. I'd say it's worth it for sure. But the limited content does hold back my score a bit. I would give it a solid 7.8 for now, which is still a good score, but I think the game could definitely be like really good. But as for now, I had fun with it, but I also think I've had enough of it in its current form. Like I'll probably only come back to the game if there are some major updates. I've just kind of done everything there is to do in it, but I have played it quite a bit, and it was only $10, so it's a good deal. So yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the game, like what score you would give it down in the comments below, or if this review helped you decide whether or not to get the game, or just let me know how your day was. You know, the more comments the better. If you like the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more from me. I have another review that should be coming out hopefully pretty shortly, and I got some other stuff I'm working on. But so yeah, see you around. Oh, that's not the exit.
I was watching that thing follow you for so long, and I was like, I can't say anything. Like, I can't do anything about this. But he's right there, and I just saw his little eyeballs like running around below you.
I was doing good too.
Oh my god, I was so impressed with that jump with the spider chasing you. That threw me off. I wasn't ready for that kind of success.
And then it ended with failure.
I got it. I hear more.